Aloha, hi guys. My name is Erica, and I'm coming to you today from the North Shore of Oahu. It's my goal that I bring holistic healing and wellness to people all around the world, all around the globe. And I think that one avenue we can do that is through yoga. So specifically, I'm pretty new to yoga in my journey. I do have a 200-hour yoga teacher training completed, and then I'm enrolled in another one, which is actually giving me the inspiration for this video. But it's my goal to teach people yoga who are really new to yoga, or people who are intimidated to learn about yoga, and who think that it's not for them. So it's my goal to just kind of like open your eyes to what kind of benefits that you can find here, and maybe to share with you too, like a little bit of the overlap of how there's actually other healing modalities that are out there that coincide with some of these ways that yoga brings about healing as well. So hold on one moment. I've got a little PowerPoint presentation for you because we're going to do some educational stuff before I encourage you to get on the mat. Okay, so welcome to my PowerPoint. I'm going to try to give you a bit of an analytical and a visual understanding here before we get onto the mat, or before we do any exercises. So one of the first things that I want everybody to know, because this was news to me, is that yoga is much bigger than just asanas or doing poses. So when you hear the word yoga, a lot of people are going to think that that's just going to some sort of exercise class. But actually, yoga includes a wide range of like philosophical concepts. And so here in some teachings, they've broken it down into these different types categories, or you'll hear people say limbs of yoga. But I just want to point out that yoga is this broad thing. It is said by multiple people in my teaching that actually it's the West that kind of attached to the asana side of it and then like blew it up into this big exercise sort of fad and craze. So one of the limbs there you're going to see is actually called pranayama, and that is related to breath. And breath is really powerful. I think it's really foundational in my holistic journey here as a healing. What I'm being intuitively called to is to work on these super deep foundational issues, or processes, I should say, within the body. And so breath is number one. Even in my Chinese medicine teachings, we are learning that qi enters the body through the lungs, and that's the breath. So that's the entry, the pathway. So there's some things here where breath is really important across various different healing modalities. Um, so moving along here, I just want to show everybody what a proper, like a deep diaphragmatic breathing example is. And then I also wanted to point out that there's other professions and industries that are out there that do utilize this. So like another place you might see this diaphragmatic breathing could be in dancers or singers or performers of some sort. So either way, I want to teach you now what a proper diaphragmatic deep breath looks like. And then I want to remind you that anytime that you are doing yoga or intend to do yoga, if you just focus on this breathing pattern and do this breathing pattern, you're already doing yoga. And so if you do show up to a class or something like that, basically, as long as you are breathing, and especially if you're focused on your breath and doing deep diaphragmatic breathing, then you are already doing yoga, and you are also going to see benefits from just doing this alone.
Place one hand on your stomach and the other on your chest.
You can
Take a
see
deep breath
very
in
low
and push
there
your
on her
belly and
abdomen,
your
the
hand
hand moving
outwards.
in and out.
Try and keep the movement of your chest to a minimum, so you concentrate on the deep breathing.
So at any time you can return to this. And so here there's a video. I mean, there's so many videos you can find online. This is for some sort of PT or physical rehab because that's how important breathing is. You're going to see a huge crossover from a lot of different places and spaces that are going to refer to breathing. Very foundational. Think about the breath. So now we're going to do a little bit of a practice because I also think that part of integrating this is to give you not only the intellectual understanding and overview of it, but also to create a bit of a space for you to exercise and to do it yourself too. So we're going to do this together. Some diaphragmatic breathing, like you just saw in the last video, and then I've got this little bit of a visual cue here that we can follow along to. This is from a meditation and a mental health place. So again, another place that the deep diaphragmatic breathing can be of assistance. Breathe out on the expansion, in the contraction. Okay. So today, what I'm here to go over a little bit more specifically and to introduce to you is what's called the sun salutation. So you're going to see this in basically every asana vinyasa flow class that you go to. This is a really common sequence and it can be really intimidating to new people. Like if you've never heard of this sequence, essentially everybody becomes so familiar with it like rather quickly, and it can tend to move rather quickly that you just get all wrapped up and they're saying these names and they're doing this and they're doing this and that and they're up and they're down. And so I just want to start out with giving people like a very basic idea of what the sun salutation is. And I'm going to start with talking a little bit about um, how important it is. But first, let's have like a quick example. So let's just wrap your mind around the actual movement, what this sun salutation looks like. It's up, bending over, going into a lunge position, reaching up, a down dog position, a plank position. It's a little intense there in the middle. Don't worry, we'll break it down. So if you don't know what you're looking at, that can be really, really intimidating. We're going to break it down step by step. Thank you, Anna. Okay. Before we break it down step by step, I'm going to tell you what the benefits are to this because for me, I needed to look at what the benefits were to motivate me to even want to do this because I've been studying yoga for more intensely for probably about 9 months now, and I still am stubborn and don't want to do the sun salutation. The vinyasa flow to me is really hard for me to want to like get the energy up to do that. I tend to lean towards maybe like a yin type of yoga class or restorative class. So keep in mind that there are classes out there that might not make you or not even make you because you don't have to do it, but might not guide you to doing the sun salutation. So here are some of the benefits though. This can be incredibly balancing. Basically, each of the poses is kind of stirring energy within these different energy centers inside of your body. And so therefore that gives a very like balancing and also a building of chi or a building of energy, sort of feeling that comes from doing this sequence. This can be meditative, it can be something that's ritualistic. It's called a sun salutation. So if you wanted to wake up in the mornings and you want to honor the natural world, you could do that from this sort of set of postures. Also, from a more physical standpoint, it's going to stretch your ribs, your diaphragm. It's going to build strength in your arms and your shoulders. You're doing an extension and flexion, like a combination of a lot of these. And so it tends to build actually digestion and assist with elimination. It does circulation. You could kind of go on and on about the benefits that come from doing this series of postures. Another big one, a big foundational one, is building the strength of the spine. And again, I just want to say that on my holistic healing journey, I'm leaning into these foundational concepts. And I really do feel that core and spine strength, along with the breathing, are really, really important. So here's a broken down kind of visual of this all. So basically you can break this down into about 12 different postures or poses. And then actually to make it even simpler, there's eight. And then you just repeat four of them again. So there's only eight to learn. Um, and basically, I would say there's like four that are more difficult than the others. So starting standing in mountain pose here, then you do an inhale with a bit of a back bend. It's sort of a prayer and up. You do a forward fold going down. Then you do a lunge position, a plank position, a what they call I think an 8-point position, a cobra position, a downward dog position, and then now you start going back to ones that you already did. You just do them a bit in reversed order. So if you look at 9 and 4, they're the same there. So starting at number 9, you actually have 4, 3, 2, and 1. So lunge to fold to the prayer back bend, reaching that position there. And here it is written. I just wanted to point out that it can be really intimidating for some people who are new to yoga when they go to a yoga class. And then some of the words that the teacher is using is in English and some of the words are in Sanskrit, because when you don't know even anything about Sanskrit or anything about yoga, you don't really necessarily know what is what. If you've heard, for example, chaturanga and plank, you might know that they are one and the same type of thing. So I just kind of wanted to make a list for people of the English words and then the Sanskrit words. I think chaturanga is the most common one that you're going to hear people refer to within that flow. And a picture again of the flow. So if you want to add in just the extra layer, if you were trying to be like really technical and foundational about this process, you would pay attention to the inhaling and the exhaling within these different movements here. And you could take multiple breaths within each posture or pose or asana that you're in. However, they do indicate, an intention of either an exhaling or inhaling at the time that you transition the pose. So more than doing the deepest back bend or the best fold or the deepest lunge, I think from a foundational perspective, what you want to do more is you want to focus on the breathing aspect of it and coordinating the breathing with the transition and the moves. I want to remind everybody that all the time, child's pose is an option and it's comfortable. So Basically, anytime and any sort of yoga thing that you go to, it is totally, completely, 100% socially acceptable. If you want to just shift into deep diaphragmatic breathing and or go into child's pose. Go into child's pose and do the breathing, or just remaining in child's pose is totally okay. You can go to it anytime. So, just know that, because already by showing up to the class and being on the mat and having your attention and your awareness, like you've already done the work, essentially. Okay. Another aspect that I just want to keep everybody informed of when it comes to yoga, again, it's much bigger than just these asanas, just these positions and poses. And so there's these more like philosophical concepts that go with to yoga. And before approaching the sun salutation, I just want to remind everybody that there's these other elements to yoga that you can incorporate into your practice that are just as important as executing the vinyasa flow. Because again, like I said, I don't really want to do the flow. I find a really hard time to find motivation. It'll be so interesting later in my yoga career to reflect on that. But essentially, I just want to remind people that there are elements of contentment. So that's being content with your body, and its physical capabilities. That's being content with your where you're at mentally for the day. Some days just can't even make it to the mat. Be happy about that. Being content with the fact that you showed up, you tried, whatever you did, you had positive thoughts today. Really, any sort of feelings of contentment that you can cultivate is already a practice of yoga. And so if you show up to some sort of yoga gathering or show up to your own yoga space and practice, know that any sorts of contentment is just as important as executing the poses. Um, and then also, oh, big typo here, sorry about that, but self-study and reflection. So knowing, doing your own personal best, and then just reflecting on that and using the time that you are spending in practice as a self-study and as a reflection is foundational within yoga and perhaps the most important. And so physically, despite someone's physical capabilities, we already talked about that you can show up, you can express contentment, you can participate in self-reflection, you you can work on deep diaphragmatic breathing. And then from there, if you are participating within the asanas, you can do whatever asanas are comfortable to you, focusing on sturdiness, steadiness, and then you can go to child's pose anytime that you want to as well. So then if we really get into the deets of doing this sun salutation here, just going to remind you all one more time of what we're going to go at before we go step by step queuing onto the mat and working through the full sequence here. You can do it, okay? So here we go. I want everybody to go ahead and stand onto the front of your mats. I want you to bring your hands to a prayer pose. And so from here, you could technically take all the time and attention that you want to focus on mountain pose. There's all kinds of cues just to do mountain pose correctly. Um, this includes your contact points onto your feet and how they connect with the ground, the rotation of your hips, having your knees aligned over the tops of your heels and kind of having a full, almost pushing your knees out in a way just to kind of open up and create a really solid nice feeling there. There's an engagement that you can do with your core. There's a tucking and a rounding of your lower back that can be included, and then an extension of the spine upwards, a relaxing of the shoulders downwards, okay? A tightening, pulling into your chest, okay? And then your chin and your gaze looking straight ahead, okay? So just even breaking down mountain pose, you know, there's so much time and attention and detail that can go into mountain pose. Mountain pose is a very grounding pose. So that's going to be root chakra. And so each of these poses is going to coordinate with a different type of chakra. So there's also tones that are associated with this. So even at this moment, you can think about grounding energy. You can think about roots going from your feet into the core of the world, the earth, visiting this energy of root chakra while you're in the mountain position. Okay. And then they say on the inhale is when you're going to transition. So as you inhale, raise your hands up overhead and press your pubic bone forward and tighten your buttocks, open your chest, and give a little back arch if you can. From there, on an exhale, you will lean forward. You will put your tailbone up. Try and place your hands next to your feet, or just have them hang loose down if you can't touch the ground. And from there, you will inhale and transition into a lunging position. This one is going to have either your front foot is your right foot or your left foot. Later in the sequence, it will be the opposite. And that is on an inhale. Each of these positions, you could rest in these positions and you could really feel each of these positions out. Okay. And you could just breathe there. Then you're going to move into a plank position. You're going to hold your breath while in plank. And then you're going to exhale and drop your chest down. This is an 8-point position. 8 points comes from the 2 points of your toes are touching the mat, your 2 knees touching the mat. Then you have your hands, okay, touching the mat, and also your chest, either side of the rib cage touching the mat. 8 points on the mat, okay? Then an inhale up into the cobra position. And then a big push here. You're going to push and you're going to transition into that downward dog. Okay. In my experience, people and practitioners stay in this position for far too long. I can't really hold it as long. I guess it's a strength building thing. So especially here is a place where personally I might drop down into child's pose, especially if I don't want to do another round of this sun salutation from now. I might just hang out in child's pose for a while. Okay. So from this child's pose, from the downward dog, excuse me, you are now going to go back into lunge. You're going to do the opposite foot forward than you did before. That's on an inhale. And then on an exhale, you're going to transition into a forward fold. And you're going to inhale, bring it all the way up, leaning back again. And down into mountain and prayer pose. Okay. From here, a lot of times people are going to continue this 3 times minimum. Okay. 3 times, 5 times. But I just want you to know that you don't have to do all of that if you don't want to. I thank you so much for being brave and getting out there and learning more about what a sun salutation is. Don't let this hold you back. I don't want it to be intimidating in any way. I just want for people who have never been to a yoga class, I think if you have seen this, if you've broken it down, you studied it just a little bit, and you have an idea of what's going on when it comes upon you, it can make the whole class a lot more comfortable, and easygoing. So aloha, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much.